Jungles of Delthrak. It's Monday. I said we were going to talk about it. Here it is. No, literally. This is the box art, the official box art released by Avalon Hill on their official Instagram account, and it's been spreading like wildfire throughout the HeroQuest communities. HeroQuest Jungles of Delthrak, the oft-rumored, oft-questioned and debated quest pack, which was confirmed thanks to the EAN leak some time ago, is real. It is announced. We have a bit of a vague start date here for the release. Some say August, some say September. This may be a regional difference. Both of these things could be true. It's the quantum release date. It's the fabled, will it release here, there, or when release date. But September, August, this is about the time frame. I said August the first time, right? Not October. August, September. This is about the release date that we're going to get this awesome expansion. And you should be able to find a retailer in your area, maybe not your area, but on the area of the World Wide Web where you can pre-order it right now. That doesn't mean Pulse and it doesn't mean Amazon. So those of you who are waiting for like the more, I don't want to say more reliable because they're all reliable at some point, but the bigger retailers to have these, and in fact, a lot of us have pretty sour experiences with Pulse or Amazon because the games will get released at other places. People will get their orders thanks to Pulse and Wave shipping from these retailers. Not everybody gets it at the same time. It is what it is. But if you're waiting for a storefront that you've actually used before to get it, rest assured they will get it in time. So we're going to analyze this cover. We're going to talk about the Jungles of Delthrak and everything Avalon Hill had to say about it. We're going to be doing a little bit of reading right here on HeroQuest. And to that point, welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is HeroQuest, and we're talking about the Jungles of Delthrak. We've talked about the Jungles of Delthrak before, of course, but now we have an official box art to speculate over. I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of speculation here. I think that this is pretty cut and dry. I think this is showing you some pretty solid elements of what's going to be in the box, but let's go ahead and make some observations anyway. We have what look like two heroes here presented on the box, and I say two because they look like they're clearly in opposition to the monsters that are encircling them now that they've opened up a treasure chest. And we have a little bit of commentary on the designers of this expansion not wanting to go back and change the original Dwarf and Barbarian, but instead offer a new take that would allow people who complain about the lack of skills for the Dwarf and Barbarian, you know who you wretched filth are, to finally get something playable and get something into their games where the Dwarf and the Barbarian can have some abilities. And this would almost immediately strike you as two dwarves, but this is a dwarf and a human. So this seems to be the dwarf class, race, whatever you'd like to call that, and the human or barbarian class / race. I think that we're seeing the dwarf and the barbarian variants, the ones that everyone said, hey, dwarf and barbarian are really underpowered now that the knight and the rogue have come out. Can we please get some barbarian skills? Because I don't see a point in playing the barbarian now that the Guardian Knight is here. Those people are objectively wrong, but that's not what we're here to talk about. This should be the answer that everyone is looking for who would like to have in their game skills native to the Dwarf and the Barbarian for their classic party of 4 heroes. Everybody and their mom and their dog have created homebrew skills for the Barbarian. Skills like Cleave. Does that one sound familiar? How about Whirlwind? How about that one? It's been done about 500 times. And that's fantastic. That means we're all on the same page as to what this hero should be able to do. We're all fairly in agreement on what this hero or these heroes should be able to accomplish if you gave them abilities like the elf and the wizard have. And I'm using the royal term for abilities, the coverage, ability, spell, skill, whatever you'd like to call them. The wizard and elf, of course, obviously have spells, but these other two heroes have nothing. The homebrewers decided that the barbarian should have certain skills, and some of these have been inspired by Warhammer Quest, it seems, which is absolutely fine. The death blow, the war cry, being able to freeze all of the enemies in a given room, that one's pretty popular, it seems, as well. I think that we're going to see Avalon Hill's version of this stuff. We're going to see these interpretations, and I'm willing to bet we're just going to see 3, but that's 3 skills that the barbarian will now have. Am I claiming that this character right here is a barbarian, I don't know. I don't know necessarily that I'm claiming that that's a barbarian. That could be the jungle alternative of a barbarian. It's a very strong man. It is a very big, strong, very well-traveled looking guy with lots of muscle, certainly all the beard, and there's a lot of experience in that beard. There's a lot of white. There's a lot of readiness to use the giant two-handed axe that he wields. He wears the decoration of a hunter. He has teeth or claws on a necklace around his neck. This character, who could be a hunter, will be our barbarian proxy, or the one from whom we will steal all of the skills to give our base game barbarian some form of ability, utility, as it were. That's really all I have to speculate about this fellow right now, but I'm sure his sculpt is going to look amazing, and it's going to be really cool to have a character in our adventures who looks like they've traveled through, from, and to jungles. The other character on this box, definitely dwarf. I know that I make a big fuss about my darling warlock halfling, and I'm pretty firm on the halflings existing in HeroQuest, even though we don't seem to have canonic references in any of the lore. It's just the design notes for the warlock. There's still speculation on the druids and whether or not they're actually gnomes instead of halflings. It's tomato, really, but this to me clearly is a dwarf. There's no tomato about it. This is more like potato. That didn't make any sense. And she is quite lovely. She's more of a treasure hunter variety. She's opening up this chest, which has a very unique motif design on the front. It's a jungle chest. I think we're going to see, well, we'll get to the chest speculation here in just a bit, but there is chest speculation, so don't you worry about that. She's great. She's going to be an awesome dwarf character to have in our games. And just like with this hunter to her left, our right, we're going to see some skills that apply to a dwarvish build. We're going to see skills that make sense with a dwarf. And I really think that the backs of these cards that are going to come with these two heroes, they might even be more ambiguous and not necessarily have the picture of the hero on the card. Now, if they do, what I think the designers would be intending here is you take these two heroes and you plop them into your base game. You put them into your base game system. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can homebrew whatever you'd like. You can take these cards and you can say the backs don't matter, the illustrations of the heroes don't matter. But I say this about the backs of the cards because for some people, it might be immersion breaking to use abilities that have a different hero's design on the back of the card for a different hero. And I think that that's a good take. But when we got the new druids that came with Against the Ogre Horde, the backs of those cards were more generic. They did not have a picture of the druid heroes that came with Against the Ogre Horde, nor did they have a picture of the druid that came with the mythic tier of HeroQuest, which the old druid cards that came with the mythic tier and were to be used with that druid hero did have the illustration of that druid hero designed by Nikki Dawes. So the cards probably are going to be more generic on the back so that we can use them with either the new characters here and treat them as exclusive to this pack, treat them as different, as distinctively different heroes from the current barbarian and dwarf, or we'll be able to take those cards and use them with the current barbarian and dwarf. And these are going to be more like flavored varieties, more like skins you can apply to your hero. And I rattled off some very popular Herculean abilities for our barbarian to have. What about our dwarf, though? People like to use dwarf toss as an ability. I'm fairly certain. I'm like 99%. If I was a betting man, I would bet money, dollars to donuts, that we're not going to see a dwarf toss ability in HeroQuest. Pretty sure that will never happen, but it's a lot of fun to see it in the homebrew. I get it. It is funny. I would do the same thing. Toss the dwarves all day long. Blah, blah, blah. Don't tell the elf. I get it. It's good stuff. I don't think we're going to see an official dwarf toss ability, though. I'd be really surprised. I don't know what kind of video I'd have to film to punish myself if we did see that. Okay, moving on to the chest. Yeah, I think we're going to get some chests in this pack. I think because they made a point to put a lot of treasure on the cover of this box, they are opening a treasure box. Perhaps they only got here to get into the treasure. Look at this scene. What are we missing about this scene? This is not a heroic battle. These two came here to get rich. They came here because they wanted fortune. They invaded a territory they had no real right to come to. And I'm not even sure that this is completely a heroic quest that has to do with defeating or in other ways subverting the forces of dread. This might actually be the story of these two characters coming to get treasure and getting lots of it. Perhaps they've journeyed together before. Perhaps there is a relationship here. They're fellow treasure hunters. They've been on many journeys, perhaps. Perhaps I'm overlooking, over speculating, but really, I do think that the art is intentional. I think there's a deliberate message here about the kind of adventure that this is going to be. Now, I'm absolutely certain we're going to see the forces of dread. We're going to see goblins, orcs, skeletons. We're going to see dread warriors all throughout this expansion pack, because this does require the HeroQuest game system to play. And there's no way an expansion isn't going to use the resources that come with the game system. It's not as if it's just going to use the enemies that are here contained in this pack. But I still think that it's going to set a different tone for the adventures. One, it's going to be jungles and crypts in the jungle, and perhaps some pyramids in the jungle, some jungle-themed dungeons. And I think we're going to see a bit of furniture with this. I think that the trend that was set by Mage of the Mirror and brought to a higher standard and continued in the Rogue Heir of Elethorn, and technically continued in Against the Ogre Horde, is going to continue to happen here. We're going to get furniture with everything going forward. Also, Zargon, Twitter Zargon, did say quite a while back that we were going to get dwarvish furniture. Well, they teased dwarvish furniture, dwarvish, elvish furniture. Now, we've seen 2 expansions with elvish furniture. We've seen all kinds of elvish furniture. We're lounging on elven chaises and washing our hands in elvish sinks. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the ethereal torture chamber. I've been washing my hands in plasm. Ugh. No wonder there was such a painful look on that ghost's face. But here is our dwarvish furniture. This was definitely being developed, or at least conceived, and in the test production sketch room at the time that comment was made. So they felt pretty good about being able to include this dwarvish themed furniture in a quest pack that was coming within the next 18 months. And here it is. Is this the dwarvish chest? I don't know, but I do kind of want to speculate that we're going to see chests that take up more than one tile. And I think if we do, it's a long time coming. A big chest, something that's going to take 1x2 or 2x2 tiles, or even maybe on the map take up 2x3, like a table. The boss chest from the Legend of Zelda series, essentially. I want that in HeroQuest so badly. This isn't it. This is a dwarf opening a chest that looks very much to scale with the chest that comes with the game and the dwarf that comes currently with the game. So, I mean, this wouldn't be it. But a giant chest that could hold all kinds of stuff, that would be awesome. And of course, mechanics around the giant chest. We could go through the dungeon and look for keys. Perhaps there are keys that are with the treasure cards that would come with this expansion, so that when you mix these cards in, you search every room, there's a chance that you'll get a key. And perhaps it takes a key to open it. I'm really just homebrewing on video like I always do at this point. But, you know, speculation. We could have keys. We had an alchemy system with Rise of the Dread Moon. I don't think we're going to see an extension to that. I think we might see a repeat, but I don't think that they'll waste card space and employee genius for a repeat. I think instead they will do a different take on it. So if we see alchemy here, I'm certain that we would see more jungle-themed alchemy. So all the cards would be different for the reagents, and all of the potions that the reagents become would be different. That's my opinion. I think that's what we would see if we were going to see alchemy. Keys, giant chests. Perhaps those are thoughts for another day, but I was going to say we could have quests where there's a giant chest. You can't get into it without a key. There are key treasure cards, and if you don't find a key treasure card, that brings a little bit of replayability to that quest, because you'll want to play it again later to get the loot that's in the giant chest. Whether that's 1,000 gold pieces or some really, really cool gear for a specific hero or all the heroes. Ash here with a word from this video sponsor. You're the sponsor. There's new benefits on the Patreon, and if you join the Mighty Hero tier now, you will gain access to a monthly quest designed by me exclusive to members of this tier and above. You'll have access to polls to be able to vote on upcoming content, and have a special role for the Amalgam Archive Discord server. You'll be credited as a supporter at the end of every YouTube video I make, and finally gain access to heroic quests. That's a video game. All right, back to the video. Okay, we're gonna get to the monsters now, and you see the spiders. Well, these aren't spiders proper. They are definitely arachnids. There's like weird Cthulhu kind of vibed faces on them. They're covered in facehugger claws with jaws in the middle. So these things are wanting to latch onto you after coming down from the trees with their sticky spider web substance. And there are a lot of them on the cover. I count 9. We've got one in the foreground here, one here. We've got at least 3 here behind the barbarian. Perhaps this is 4. We've got another one here by the barbarian's elbow, another one here much larger, another one here slightly in the background, one here in the foreground. This one's taken all of the fame and glory. And then there's actually another one on the tree back here. So actually maybe like 11 of these spider creatures. I don't think we're going to see 11 spiders included with this expansion, but I do think we're going to see a number of them. I don't know what these things are called. I'm referring to them as spiders. I'm sure they have a completely different name. They are giant jungle arachnids of some kind. They look very dangerous. They look poisonous. And I'm willing to bet what with the various enemies of HeroQuest just really only being able to differ in appearance. They only really differ in appearance and then like body point and defend die. There is a little bit of variation with movement dice. Movement, not movement dice, not for enemies, just movement. But to really spice up the enemies, Avalon Hill has been giving special dread spells and abilities to some of them. I think this might be the start of a poison mechanic. I think we could see poison finally happen officially in HeroQuest with these enemies. We have not just these weird arachnids, but another creature here who looks very venomous. And if it strikes, that could mean poison for the enemy as well, which in this case means the hero. And this venomous state, this poison state that is inflicted on a hero could drain them of their life. It could be very much something that has to be fought off against. It has to be mitigated. It has to be corrected, cured, you could say. So maybe something in the reagents/alchemy deck to cure poison. That's what I would do if I were going to design this quest. If I had a hand in designing this, this would be the start of states. Each new HeroQuest expansion seems to have a new, bigger mechanic that it brings to the overall game system that the other expansions don't bring or don't have. So with this one, I would test the waters with different status effects and states for the heroes to be in. So poison would be the one that I would test out with this one. And then, although I do think that the original designers of this aren't all here anymore, I think a lot of them have probably moved on, not by choice, but because this was before and after the layoffs event. I don't know that we'll see the same integrity with any feedback given to this about its mechanics, good, bad, or ugly, carried over into another expansion. But at this point, with everything that we have been blessed to receive with HeroQuest, I'm more just interested to see what they'll bring. And I'm grateful for what we have. No matter what comes out after this going forward, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be mad. I won't be disappointed. I'll be a little bit OCD disappointed because if we didn't get the US version of the Wizards of Morcar, I would just that would mean proxying everything and not having the official, and I'd be slightly gutted there. That's really the only thing. But that's if we were to stop all things HeroQuest right after. I'm very excited. I'm very excited. My words are all over the place. If you bear with me, okay? I got to drop some of this professionalism so that I can have some fun. You have to be willing to embarrass yourself a little bit if you want to have some fun sometimes. That's what we're doing today. We're being embarrassing. We're being cringe. Moving on from spiders, the poison states, the heroes, the furniture, let's look at the real hero of this box. We've got what looks like a silverback gorilla, a tribute to Harambe. This is a giant ape. This guy is wielding some sort of weapon, but we can't exactly see it because it's hidden behind the HeroQuest logo. Or is it the entire HeroQuest logo? Look at the size of the weapon that this giant ape is wielding. He's going to crush these two invaders to his temple, trying to steal his treasure. He's going to crush them with the HeroQuest logo. How's that for irony? There's not a lick of iron anywhere in this photo. It's all made of bone. So how's that for bony? Don't believe me? Look at him. Look at that hefty bone handle is what holds the HeroQuest blade aloft. No, but seriously, this guy's pretty cool. I think that he's a lot cooler than the Yeti from the Frozen Horror. You can use apes in a little bit more of a diverse way than you can snow apes. And I'll die on that hill. I'll die on the hill that if you use biome-themed enemies, that they will be psychologically inclined to stay in that biome as far as homebrewers go. Of course, you can make whatever color Yeti you want. You can say this is a lava Yeti, and you can use it in your regular quests, but it's still a little off-putting. It's still just a tiny bit breaking for some people, a little bit immersion breaking, and I'm one of those people, so I do complain. But Monkey Man, he can be used in a lot of stuff. He's great. He's brilliant. And even if we only get one of these guys and he's like a boss of some kind or just a special enough monster that we only get the one, I'm grateful. I think he'll be a pretty good size too. At least he'll be kind of chunkier than the hero. He might be a little bit bigger than the barbarian if the box art is correct, but I think the sculpt will be a little bit bigger than this guy. So, Monkey. And what's this green gem hanging around his neck? He is sentient, obviously. He's got a weapon. He's coming in here to use the weapon like a person would, and he's got this green gem. Is this the way that he might be able... I say he, this could be a she, okay? I'm assigning a gender to this ape, but don't worry. I will stand corrected if this is Queen Ape, but is this the way that he might communicate with the heroes? He might be able to yell insults at them or cast dread magic. This gem, to me, is something to do with either dread, which would introduce dread into this sort of non-dread controlled dangerous terrain of the jungle, something that's just so dangerous in and of itself that it doesn't have any outside influence for its master, but is more of a biome that if the heroes controlled it somehow, which would never happen, they'd have a huge upper hand against dread. If dread somehow controlled it, the heroes would just be doomed everywhere. Kind of a similar situation with the ogre horde. A third faction situation, basically. Is this really the sign of the jungle that this ape is the king in this territory, or a notable figure? Or is it dread magic controlling him, telling him, hey, beast, you're going to do the will of dread now. You had no notion as to what that was before. All you wanted to do before was eat banana and sleep in tree. I don't think apes sleep in trees, but that's okay. Eat banana, sleep in tree, and slap the night guard. Those are my two guesses as to the amulet, and we're going to move on to the star of this box. This beautiful, lovely girl, this awesome, gorgeous snake creature. I'm assigning this one to, this is a lady snake, and she's gorgeous and stunning and beautiful. And this is the answer to all of our Conan, Thulsa Doom roleplay requests. This snake is going to let us play out scenes from some of our favorite movie, some of the favorite movie of some of us, some of our favorite movie. That doesn't, in this episode, Ash Englishes. I think this is going to be a massive sculpt. I think that this sculpt might even be a 3 by 3. It might be that big. This is a coiled serpent, most likely, so it's not necessarily going to be a tall sculpt, but I think it'll be a very big, wide sculpt. 2 by 2. 2 by 2. 3 by 3 might be really pushing it a little bit, but if it's 2 by 2, then it is going to be super awesome. It's going to be very imposing. That's a word that I use a lot on the channel, but only when I mean it. It just so happens that I mean it a lot when I'm talking about certain HeroQuest things. So yeah, I am an Avalon shill, as always. They are not without criticism. They are not without flaw, but for the most part, this box art seems to suggest that they are once again going to knock it out of the park with their original content. I think they're going to have a lot of great takes on ways to give the abilities to the dwarf and the barbarian. And I think that we're going to see some really awesome enemies here. I don't think at all that these are the only 3 enemies that we're going to see in the box. I think that we're going to see at least 2 more. Maybe more, and if we're really lucky, we will see variations of enemies that come with the game system, just like we did with Against the Ogre Horde. I'd be very, very happy to see that. I think that that's something that would be more reserved for the Wizards of Morcar-based expansion. I think that we would see mage versions of enemies from the base game in that, and trust me, that does make sense. Mage skeletons and mage goblins are definitely a thing. Mage goblins in particular, we had night goblins way back in the day with Warhammer Quest and Warhammer Fantasy in general. And while I am fully cognizant that this has nothing to do with that anymore, I think it is really and truly only a matter of time before we do get those mage-themed enemies. For this in particular, I think it's possible that we would see a stronger version of a mummy, though. There are definitely mummies in temples, in jungles, in classic fantasy. I can't think of any references off the top of my head, but it makes sense to me to imagine it. So when you think of a magical mummy, perhaps you think of the mummy from the hit film The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser and Dwayne "The Rock" Scorpion. But I think we could see mummies that are a little bit more decorated, that have a little bit more of an awe-inspiring presence about them, ones that were clearly magic users before they fell into their slumber, their long nap. More variations of classic enemies. That's what I think we'll see with the Jungles of Delthrak. Now we're going to launch ourselves over into the Discord, and I'm going to read something that community member Ribby has shared. First, we're going to look at the official Avalon Hill language, launching August 2024. Timing varies by language and market. HeroQuest Jungles of Delthrak Quest Pack is our second wholly original release with epic, adventure-inspiring art. This upcoming release ventures into dangerous jungles, where a powerful dwarven relic has been stolen, and something nefarious has infected the land. Investigate the blight and uproot the curse in this expansion, featuring a choose-your-own-adventure mechanic with 16 never-before-seen quests, brand new characters, and highly detailed miniatures. All right, I want to stop on this before I go further with the transcribed interview notes with one of the designers. So launching August 2024, timing varying by language and market. As I said before, you would definitely in marketing want to use the earliest date for your release. So even if this were going to release, this is a crazy scenario. I'm really hitting the logical extreme here. Even if this were to release in China in August and not release anywhere else in the world until September, UK and US gets it October or anything like that, they would say August. So, and it makes sense to say that it launches in August because that would be the truth. But I'm sure that we're going to get them all pretty close together. We're probably going to be looking at pretty close regional and languages releases mid to late August, early September. The art is awesome. The text does say that a powerful dwarven relic has been stolen. Something nefarious has infected the land. Something has infected the land. And this is actually something that would work beautifully with my poison theory. It wouldn't necessarily have to be poison, but it still plays into my theory that we'll be seeing some testing of a states system. The state of the character, not like a territory or a province, if that wasn't clear. Status effects in other RPG language. There's a bit of speculation about the choose-your-own-adventure mechanic and 16 never-before-seen quests, and I think that there's a lot of folks who think that you finish Quest A, you now have a choice. You can go to Quest B or Quest C, and this means the campaign will now be replayable, because if you pick Quest B, you go to Quest D after you finish it. You don't go to Quest C. We see this sort of choose-your-own-path system in games like Descent, 2nd edition, Journeys in the Dark, where you can finish one adventure and the quest chain kind of looks like a pyramid, wherein each block is a different adventure, but you can only kind of descend the pyramid diagonally, and you can't necessarily jump across to go finish the other adventure because it's a different version of what would happen depending on your choices from the end of the first adventure. So if you finish a quest and you've got two doors, do you take the left door going deeper into the jungle, or do you take the right door and go into the temple? Obviously, if you take the left door, you're skipping whatever goes on in the temple, but the end of the jungle adventure could push your characters into a storyline wherein you have to continue into different areas and you never get the opportunity to go back to the temple. Obviously, once again, the needless disclaimer arises: Zargon can do whatever they want. You could play all of these adventures, one right after the other, in a grand 16 adventure scenario, if it makes sense to do so, but these adventures might be really close together in how they're built. You might have the goal of adventure B and C being the same, where you have to find a switch and the reward in both of them is the same. It's just the structure of the dungeon is different. It's also entirely possible that it is designed so that you can play all 16, or you can jump around, or you can go to certain quests at any point in your adventure, or it's just a really short, like 1 to 7 or 1 to 8 quest scenario if you fly through the main adventure. But at any point, if you accept quests from different points throughout the campaign, from NPCs between the quests, that you get to go out and journey. I think we're going to be really inspired to make our own choose your own adventure campaigns depending on how this looks, because this is the first time that we're getting a canonical go to quest B or C depending on your choices at the end of the quest. And maybe that's not even how it plays out. Maybe this plays out a little bit more like the Dark Company after all, where it's possible to travel onto another board's worth of adventures, but the adventures are more closely knit. They're more tight. They use different sections of the board, and you could place them onto the board at the same time, although you might be missing a table if you were to do that. Something where if you had 4 boards, you could actually recreate all 16 of the quests that are in here all at once at the same time. I hope that's not the case, but I mean, it's possible. Anything's possible. There's also the possibility that these 16 quests are played as a single campaign, one after the other, and the only choose your own adventure mechanic really lies in a text-based adventure that takes place at different points between the quests. I've seen this in other games. I believe Altar Quest has this mechanic. It has an adventure book, you play the game, but then in between the quests, you make decisions in the book, and it really is literally just like a choose your own adventure book, with passages like in Lone Wolf or Fabled Lands or Choose Your Own Adventure, where it asks you if you want to make a choice, and you do so, and you follow the adventure by text. And this could actually play into the main game very easily by giving your characters buffs, boons, treasure, different weapons, armor, offering them choices to buy certain things before they head into the next quest. So the choose your own adventure mechanic could be between quests as well. All speculation, but now we're going to move on to the next point, which is all of the interview notes. Doug Hopkins on introducing the quest pack. For the first time in HeroQuest, we're going to give you a choose your own adventure style quest. There are 16 quests in this book. You will go on a 10 quest storyline with your team. It says right there, you'll go on a 10 quest storyline. Gotcha. All you had to do was read, Ash. You had one job. Ruby posted this stuff yesterday and I didn't read it all. I was at work and I was just flipping down through my phone like really quick before break was over. We really wanted you to have a story that you could share with the people who go through the quest book in a completely different way, so that you can say how you completed the jungles of Delthrak. Well, at least the other 3/4 of my speculation could still apply. And I can talk about how I completed the jungles of Delthrak, and we can judge each other a little bit, if you don't make the right decisions. That's one of the key beats for this, one of the key features. Okay, all right, yeah. You took the temple path? You're a loser. I took the jungle path because that's for Chads. Yeah, I can see that discussion. I can see that discussion right now. You might notice there are some new monsters on this box. I can tell you that that's not the dwarf hero, nor is that a barbarian hero. So that's not the dwarf, that's not a barbarian, but I'm saying that these are the stand-ins for those. That's why I said that could be a hunter. It does look like Kraven the Hunter, the Spider-Man villain, in its design, in the way that there's bulging muscles everywhere. It's not the barbarian, clearly. It's a different character, but it's a barbarian of a different design. And I think that we could see those vague card backs so that we would be able to use this concept with our base game. But we'll find out. We'll find out. I might be reading a little too much into it. Asked about the differences between remixing an old quest pack versus making a new one from scratch. I will say there are a lot of similarities. I still want our super fans, the people who play our game, to love what we give them. When we restore an old quest, that is something that exists, but when you do something new, you want people to be excited about it, but you get to take it to a different place. I thought jungles were perfect for that sword and sorcery vibe. I agree, that's correct. We old school players tend to quest in and have it in our game, so I thought it would be a great opportunity to bring this to you for HeroQuest. It is a great opportunity. Once again, you're correct. Now, ask about the Italian and the world community of HeroQuest. The best thing about HeroQuest is the fans. It's the gargoyle. What are you talking about? Since I started this, I've got nothing but love and passion and respect from the fan community. It is so amazing. I hope that you see that I listen to all of you, and when you ask for things, we give it to you. Continue to use that voice. Ask us, tell us what you want. Ask us for what you are trying to find in your game, and the Avalon Hill team will make opportunities to put them in our games. So is the new hero a ranger or not? Since we released the character packs, people have been asking for powers and skills for the dwarf and barbarian. I didn't want to give you that because I want you to play the dwarf and barbarian in your game. Yes, correct. I didn't want to feel like they're replaced because those heroes are great as they are. Again, Absolutely correct. There's no need to change them because they already have strong starting points. So you'll find in this some heroes that may be adjacent to those, but are not those heroes, that you can play with those heroes. Again, we listened to what you wanted. We want to give you something very close to those characters, but not be those characters, so that you can play those characters in the game together. So 2 dwarfs, for example. I mean, we need all dwarf party at point, I think, at some point. I can't answer the original question, but I'll give you a little bit of insight into my inspiration. So is this character on the box an old character or something completely new? This is a completely new character. Why are we as heroes going to the jungle? Why did you choose to have this expansion take place in the jungle? We want to give the characters in the story of HeroQuest we want to reveal more of the story of these characters in HeroQuest. So there's a story about why you're going to the jungle. This expansion will peel back the curtain a little bit on that story. And there's my permission from the lovely, awesome General of all Goblins, Ribby, to use that transcription in this video. You definitely have to follow Avalon Hill Games on Instagram. They post all kinds of stuff on their Instagram, and we're going to talk about their reveals on Talisman separately in another video. They showed a lot of stuff for Talisman 5th edition, and I'm saying this is one of the most beautifully packaged Talismans ever. I love the 3rd edition for its Games Workshop feel and vibe and all the skulls. I'm a lover of the skulls. I love the skulls. The skulls will make or break how you think of Talisman 3rd edition. I love the skulls, but this magic right here, I gotta wipe the drool off of my face looking at this box. This box might go upright in my collection back there so that I can show off how beautiful it is. Calm down, Ash. No, I will not. But that's pretty much it. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to process, a lot to talk about. And when we see the back of this box and we see unboxings, which you are going to see on this channel as soon as it becomes available, we'll be able to speculate a little bit more, and we'll be able to talk about these components and how they'll interact with our current games a little bit more. We'll be able to talk about the exclusive mechanics that come with Jungles of Delthrak, which I'm so happy is a totally, completely real expansion. And all the people who were naysaying the fakeness of the name and everything just a few months back seem to have completely disappeared, as it should be. Not the people, the mindsets. The mindsets have disappeared. I hope the people are alive and well and playing HeroQuest. And yes, Doug Hopkins is right. We do need to have a party that's just all barbarians or all dwarfs without breaking the fundamental rule that there can only be one barbarian in the party at a time or one dwarf in the party at a time. I don't know that it's been explicitly stated that there can only be one dwarf in the party at a time. It has been for the elf, it has been for the barbarian, and we take it as a general rule. But I'm sure that there is going to be clarification when that drops with this. And I think that we're going to see these 2 heroes not being 2 versions of one hero, and I think that's pretty obvious. These are not 2 versions of the same hero. These are 2 completely different heroes, so that we are able to take them and bring them into our base game if we want. And I do think that they are the answers to our dwarf and barbarian. Well, I mean, that was already said. Doug said it himself. So, I mean, I don't have to think anything. I don't have to think anymore from this point forward. I can now stop recording, edit my video, and wish you a fantastic rest of your day. Brave heroes, please give me all of your additional speculation on what you think about this and what you like about it. I want to know, is this snake beautiful? Would you date this snake? Oh, she's so pretty. I hope she matches her Tinder profile. How about gorilla? How about silverback boy? Would you swipe right? This channel gets weird sometimes. It's not my fault, I promise. It's got nothing to do with me. Give me all your thoughts on everything down below, and I'll see you in the next exciting episode of whatever I do on AshQuest. Bye for now, brave heroes.